Right, so you know how we're always geeking out about the latest apps and AI trends?
Right. Always diving into the digital world.
Well, this time I thought, why don't we switch gears a bit, get our hands a little dirty.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What did you have in mind?
So today we're tackling a profession that's, well, about as far from an algorithm as you can get. We're talking about stone planing.
Stone planing. Now, that's not something you hear every day, like shaping actual stone.
You got it. Think massive slabs of granite, marble, the kind of stuff that ends up as those gorgeous countertops you see in magazines,
Mm.
or even like those intricate details you see on buildings.
Okay, now you're painting a picture I can get behind. So, no laptops involved then.
Well, maybe a little later on. But to get us started, we've got some great insights from RoleCatcher, that career platform we both love.
Yeah, they've got some really in-depth stuff there.
Totally. Career guides, interview tips, even some info on how AI plays a role in this whole thing.
AI and stone planing. Okay, now I'm really curious.
Me too. But first, let's back up a bit. For those of us who aren't exactly stone shaping experts, what does a stone planer actually do?
Okay, so picture this. You're in a workshop, could be a bit dusty, the air buzzing with like the sound of machinery.
Not exactly a quiet office cubicle.
Not even close. So you got these huge slabs of stone, right?
Mhm.
And you're operating this specialized planer. Think of it like a giant, heavy-duty sander to shape and smooth that stone.
Okay, so not exactly a desk job. It's more involved than just pushing a button, though, right?
Right.
You're not just sanding down a piece of wood here.
Exactly. And that's something RoleCatcher really drove home. They emphasized that stone planers need to be able to like understand the different types of stone they're working with. We're talking granite, marble, limestone. Each one has its own like personality.
That makes sense. You don't want to treat a delicate marble the same way you'd handle a slab of granite.
Exactly. It could crumble right under the pressure. And that's where the real skill comes in. Like a good stone planer can look at a piece of stone and kind of just get how it'll behave.
So it's almost like they develop a sixth sense, an intuition about the stone.
Totally. They can anticipate how it'll react to the planer and adjust their technique accordingly.
So we're talking technical skill, operating machinery, but also, like you said, that intuitive understanding of the material itself.
You got it. And it's not a solo act either. RoleCatcher talked about this symphony of skill.
Hmm.
Stone planers are often working alongside other specialists, like stone cutters, polishers, even designers.
Wow, okay, so it's more of a team effort than I imagined. I always pictured it as one person alone in a workshop.
Nope, it takes a whole crew, especially when you're dealing with these massive slabs of stone, like for a building facade or something.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And each step along the way requires, like, serious precision.
Absolutely. Like if you make a tiny mistake during the planning stage, it could throw the entire project off track.
Wow, talk about pressure.
Okay.
Okay, so we've established you need a very particular set of skills to make it in this field. And RoleCatcher goes into that, right? What are we talking about here? Beyond just knowing how to use the machinery, RoleCatcher calls it this blend of hard skills and soft skills, right?
Mhm.
What does that even mean when we're talking about stone, like actual rocks?
It's a good question. I think it speaks to that balance between like the hands-on technical stuff and then the more, I don't know, artistic side of working with stone.
Okay, so for the hard skills, we're
Mhm.
talking knowing how the machines work, right?
Absolutely. You're dealing with precise measurements, different types of planing equipment, and get this, a lot of stone planers actually work with CAD software now too.
Wait, CAD software, like
Yeah.
the computer stuff, that's not what I pictured for this line of work.
It's true. It's another example of how even in a traditional trade like this, technology is changing the game. Nowadays, those blueprints you see might be digital, so a stone planer needs to know how to, interpret those designs.
So you're not just blindly following instructions, you're using your judgment.
100%. You might even have to make adjustments based on the stone itself, like if it's got a weird grain or something.
Okay, that makes sense. So where do the soft skills come in? You can't exactly be creative when you're working with stone, can you?
Oh, you'd be surprised. Remember how we were saying that each piece of stone is unique?
Yeah, like its own little personality.
Exactly. So let's say you're planing a slab and you hit a hidden fissure, or the grain changes unexpectedly. You need to be able to think fast, problem solve on the spot.
And I'm guessing a miscalculation could mean, like, starting the whole slab over.
Could be. So being able to troubleshoot, adapt your approach, that's key. And then there's the communication side. You're often working as part of a team, right?
Right, that whole symphony of skill thing.
Yep. So being able to clearly communicate with your team, figure out solutions together, that's a huge part of it.
Okay. Starting to see why this is more than just a job. But let's get into the nitty-gritty of what does a typical day actually look like for a stone planer?
Well, it's tough to say typical because every day is different, Depends on the project, the client, the stone itself.
Sure, sure.
But let's say you're working on a big residential project, maybe some high-end kitchen countertops. Your day might start by looking over the designs.
Maybe those digital blueprints you were talking about.
Could be getting a feel for the specs, the client's vision, that kind of thing.
So you're not just jumping into it head first.
Definitely not. Then you'd probably be picking out the actual slabs of stone for the project.
Okay, so this is where that whole reading the stone thing comes into play.
Exactly. You're checking for imperfections, looking at the veining, making sure the colors will work well together. You're not just grabbing a random slab.
Wow, there's so much more to it than I realized.
Oh, yeah. And then comes the fun part, actually operating the planing machine. Carefully guiding those slabs through, making tiny adjustments to get a thickness and smoothness just right.
I bet that takes some serious focus.
Oh, yeah. And it's not always quiet, meditative work either. You're talking to your team, making sure everyone's on the same page, keeping things moving. It can be pretty fast-paced, actually.
And physically demanding, I imagine.
Definitely. Even with the machines, you're on your feet all day, moving heavy stone around. It's a workout.
I was going to say strong back, strong mind, right?
Yeah.
But all that effort, it's got to be rewarding seeing the finished product.
Oh, absolutely. It's incredibly satisfying taking this raw piece of earth and turning it into something beautiful, something that will literally last for generations.
Yeah, like you're leaving your mark on the world one countertop at a time.
That's a good way to put it.
So RoleCatcher talks about the career path for stone planers. Where can this craft take you, professionally speaking?
Well, there's the traditional route, working your way up, maybe becoming a team lead or a supervisor.
So there's room for growth, leadership opportunities.
Definitely. And then some people, they get bitten by the entrepreneurial bug. They get enough experience under their belts, and they decide to start their own stone fabrication companies.
That's amazing. Being your own boss, creating your own designs.
Exactly. And then, like we were saying before, technology is opening up even more possibilities. RoleCatcher talked about how 3D modeling and CNC machining are starting to play a bigger role.
So it's not just about the old school techniques anymore.
Right. So stone planers who can adapt, who can use those technologies to their advantage, they're the ones who are really going to thrive.
So staying ahead of the curve, always learning. It's crucial. But let's be real. For anyone looking to get into this field, there's one hurdle they can't avoid: the dreaded job interview.
Yes, the interview. It can be a nerve-wracking experience. But the good news is RoleCatcher has some fantastic resources for that, too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What?
They have this massive library of interview questions, something like 120,000 of them.
120,000. That's more questions that I've ever heard in my life.
It's a lot, right? But here's the thing. They're not just generic questions. They're tailored to specific professions, including stone planing.
Okay, so you're not getting those vague, tell me about a time you overcame a challenge questions.
Not at all. These are questions designed to really test your knowledge. They might ask you how you'd approach planing a certain type of marble versus granite, or what safety precautions you'd take when operating a particular type of saw.
So it's about proving you've got the skills and the know-how.
Precisely. And the cool thing is, RoleCatcher lets you practice answering these questions, even record yourself so you can hear how you sound.
That's brilliant. Talk about next-level interview prep. So they've got the career guidance, the interview help, resources for all kinds of stuff. RoleCatcher really sounds like the ultimate sidekick for anyone considering this path.
They really do make the job hunting process a lot less daunting. But even beyond that, I think what I find so refreshing about RoleCatcher is how they highlight the human element of this career.
What do you mean by that?
Well, we live in a world that's increasingly obsessed with technology, with automation, but here's a profession that's all about human skill, creativity, the satisfaction of using your hands to build something tangible, something that will last.
It's a good reminder that some things never go out of style. It really is kind of beautiful when you think about it, this idea of taking something so raw and turning it into a work of art that's also built to last.
It is, and knowing that something you created, something you put your skill and care into, could be around for decades, even centuries.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
It is. It's like you're part of this long line of craftspeople, you know, going all the way back to the people who built those incredible stone structures we still marvel at today.
Right, you're carrying on that legacy. And in a world where so much feels, I don't know, temporary, disposable to create something that endures. That's pretty special.
It is. And it's funny, right? We started this whole conversation talking about how technology is changing the game for stone planers.
The CAD software, the CNC machines.
Exactly. But in a way, it just proves how vital those core skills still are.
100%. That eye for detail, the ability to look at a piece of stone and just, like, understand how it wants to be shaped, no machine can replicate that.
Exactly. And maybe that's what draws people to a craft like this. It's that connection to something timeless, something bigger than ourselves.
And I think you're onto something. In a world that feels increasingly uncertain, it's comforting to know that some things, like the beauty of natural stone, the skill it takes to work with it, those things remain constant.
They do. And for anyone listening who's feeling like maybe a little burnt out on the digital world, maybe creating something a little more, I don't know, tangible.
More grounded.
Exactly. Maybe this is the sign you've been waiting for. Maybe it's time to explore the world of stone planing.
See what sparks your curiosity. You never know, you might just uncover a hidden passion.
And hey, if you do decide to take the plunge, you know where to find us. We'll be here cheering you on every step of the way.
Absolutely. And until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, keep diving deep into the things that fascinate you.
Couldn't have said it better myself. We'll catch you in the next episode.